Thomas, welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I saw this and it made me smile. It smile not because it was great, not because it was this revelatory or great, awesome thing. More so for the patheticness of it. If I'm being honest. So I saw this. And in fact, there are two stories in this, but I'm going to start with this one. House Democrats seize on anti-Trump strategy. All right. So there's Nancy Pelosi on the cover. You don't go to war with the army you want. You go with the war with the army you got. So Pelosi, apparently they went to Baltimore and they were having a conversation about what they were going to do in order to take back the House, take back political power. This is, where's this? This is Politico. House Democrats have come here to regroup, reconnect, and rally around a message to take back the House in 2018. Their political playbook already seems written, in fact, and it's pretty simple. We're not Donald Trump. This is our moment in history. We cannot choose to go backwards, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi of California told Democrats in a closed-door welcome ceremony. This man in the White House is incoherent, incompetent, and dangerous. We have to protect the children and other living things from him. We will do it. Nancy, you can't even protect yourself. This man that's incompetent, incoherent, and dangerous beat the stuffing out of your candidate. And not just beat the stuffing out of your candidate, beat the stuffing out of you. Because with this strategy that you guys have had ever since the primaries, understand, this is the same strategy that they ran on against Trump in the first place. It's the same strategy they're using right now at this moment. The last polls that came out showed them having a 30% approval rating. Trump's was nearly 50%. It doesn't look like the public realizes that he's dangerous and incoherent. It does look like the public disbelieves you, though. One after another, Democratic leaders, clad in their best retreat chic, hammered home the simple idea in their opening news conference. The main message: Republicans created the president and they would have to answer for every single controversy he creates over the next 4 years. It's not just about contrast between Democrats and Donald Trump, Pelosi told reporters. It's about the Republicans in Congress. There's hardly anything Donald Trump has said that the Republicans haven't said sooner and for longer periods of time in the worst way. But Democratic leaders and aides think this time will be different. And if they play their cards right, the strategy could even help them to deliver double-digit wins needed to take back the House in 2018. This time they have a much longer runway to think or to link individual House Republicans to Trump's actions. And the stakes are much higher. Whereas before, Trump was preaching from behind a powerless pulpit on his campaign trail, he's now sitting behind the resolute desk of the Oval Office, and his policies have real-world implication for voters. Now look, that is a good point. Beforehand, the things that Trump was saying for the most part were undetached to anything. The Democrats had a record that they ran on for the most part. Trump did not. So the things that Trump was saying was for the most part undetached to any real-world situation. He's in a seat now. He's making decisions. Those decisions are going to affect other people. So yeah, here's a point. House Democrats are betting voters won't be able to stomach 4 years of Trump if this chaotic reign continues, and we'll be looking for someone to blame in 2018 when Trump's name isn't on the ballot. Our Republican colleagues understand that what the White House does, they either have to answer for it or condemn it. They can't have it both ways. House Democratic Caucus Chairman Joe Crowley of New York told reporters. Later on, Pelosi said, "History is on our side, and so we have to remember that," she told colleagues in a nod to the 2006 elections that swept Democrats into power and Pelosi to the speakership under Republican President George Bush. The message essentially, let Trump be Trump, is something Pelosi has been preaching for months. During the campaign, she repeatedly referred to him as the gift that keeps on giving, predicting he would hand Republicans huge losses in both the Houses and the Senate. Here's the problem with that strategy, though. Here's the problem with that strategy. If you were right, Trump has been in office, 3 months now? And being in office for 3 months, his ratings hasn't gotten worse. If anything, they've stayed stable or gotten better. And in contrast to the Democrats, his ratings have ballooned. Like, he's beating the stuffing out of you guys. Stop digging. Stop digging the ditch. I understand that you want to say, let Trump be Trump. That's fine, let Trump be Trump. But that didn't win for you in the primary, in the election itself. You had, quote unquote, the most, what did y'all call her? The most qualified candidate ever for the job. Clearly she wasn't incoherent. She could put two sentences together. Oftentimes those sentences were being untruthful, but she could put them together pretty well. He beat the stuffing out of her. It's the same strategy. House Democrats' strategy is basically this. They'll publicly goad Trump on subjects he's clearly sensitive about, like insinuating he's being blackmailed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. And on other issues like Obamacare and tax reform, they'll get out of his way and let Trump and Republicans fall on their face. House Democrats Caucus Vice Chairwoman Linda Sanchez of California on Wednesday summed up the strategy as kicking a little ass for the working class. Nobody believes that. I'm sorry, nobody believes that. If anything, and we need to really put this in context, because I think you guys are in an absolute bubble here. A billionaire, whether he's a fake billionaire or not, a billionaire, beat you guys in a populist campaign. Let's put that in perspective. We need to repeat that again. A billionaire who spent his entire life fucking people over, documented of fucking people over, beat your candidate in a contest on who's going to represent the working class more. You lost to a billionaire. That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're staying with the exact same strategy of, yeah, it didn't work the first time. Yeah, we ran the strategy for several months. It didn't work, but hey, let's try it again. Let's keep it going. The amazing part of this is, and look, there's a chance for it to work. I mean, if Trump is really that grotesque, if he's really screwing up healthcare, he's really hurting people, then yeah, there's a chance that Trump could screw up. The problem is they don't know that. And right now the public finds him far more favorable than he finds the Democratic Party. Will that change? Maybe. Has it changed yet? No. Now, what they're betting is, we don't have to make any changes. Ultimately, people will come back to us because of how bad he is. This is the same strategy Democrats have used over the past 20-something years. Yes, we're right-wing, but we're not as right-wing and batshit crazy as they are. And at the very least, socially, we're relatively liberal. That's their statement. That's their statement for the past 20, 30 years. That is the neoliberals' mantra. That is literally their, that's their mantra. That's their playbook. It didn't work. It didn't work. You guys don't have an affirmative case of why people should vote for you. I just did a video with that crook, Donna Brazile, sitting on TV asking, they asked her a straight question. What does the Democratic Party stand for? She took 5 minutes to not answer the question at all. Didn't even address the question. And eventually pivoted to, yeah, we need other people to run. You don't have an answer to that. At the very least, Donald Trump is talking about the middle class. He's talking about the working class. He's not going to do anything about them. He is going to hurt those people. But he is talking about those people. He at the very least has that part down pat. And there's another point that these guys are absolutely missing. Do you remember after, when Trump had first got elected, and he was running around the country talking about he's keeping jobs in the country. And he was on Twitter bashing all these companies that were talking about moving jobs and everything else. Now, of course, it was absolutely absurd. You need policy, not Twitter, in order to do that. But you got to give him credit for one point. He did something that we never saw Obama, never saw another Democrat do. And that is stand out in front of the working class saying, yeah, you're not going to take those jobs away. Whether it was bogus or not, whether it was just political gamesmanship or not, people saw somebody standing out, being vocal and strong for them, for their benefit. I've never seen that from a Democratic politician. I've seen speeches, I've seen words that you guys might put together. They may sound pretty and nice, but I've never seen anybody take a company to the task over doing something like that. That is an amazing thing to watch. Now, at one point, I was even slightly hopeful, like, holy shit, maybe I was wrong. Maybe Donald Trump is going to be further to the left in that sense. Maybe he is going to move further to the left in regards to the Democratic Party. Well, no, that wasn't the case at all. It was bull. But he did say it. He did bring it up. He did talk about it. The only thing you guys are talking about is him. And up to this point, you still haven't understood that that's not enough to win. It's not enough to win. He may fuck up. He may screw up. He may do something that gives you guys your seats back. But that strategy is purely relying upon him. Just understand that. If he doesn't, you're not going to win in 2018. You're not going to win in 2020. So just be very clear on that point. The second point to be clear on. Sanders. So an article came out, I think this was today. Everyone loves Bernie Sanders, except, it seems, the Democratic Party. And the article kind of makes this pretty straight and clear point. Bernie Sanders is the most popular senator, most popular politician in the United States. In spades. In spades. Like, it's not even close. A new Fox News poll out this week shows Sanders as a 25 net favorability rating among the U.S. population, dwarfing all other elected politicians on both ends of the political spectrum. He's even more popular among the vaunted independents, where he's at a mind-boggling 41 points. Put that in perspective. The Democratic Party is losing. They're like 30-some% rating-wise. Donald Trump is besting them. I think he's like at 48%. Sanders is blowing all of them out the water. By far, by spades. They aren't even close. They aren't even close. The person is kind of making this point like, why the hell would the Democratic Party not get on that bandwagon? Now, the author does get something slightly wrong. The Democratic Party does want to get on the bandwagon. They want to get on the bandwagon from optics, not policy. Those things are very different. They want to stand beside him on stage. They want to hold his hand and take photos with him. They don't want to have anything to do with him in regards to policy, though. Which brings an interesting question, right? Why? Why? That doesn't really make sense. I mean, up to this point, the things that we've always been told is that the politician's job is to get elected. Well, yeah, you would think so, right? In order for the politician to put forth his legislative will to get his agenda passed, he has to be in office to do that. Well, in order to be in office, you have to get elected, and you have to bring people over to your side to get elected, which means, on some degree, you have to be popular. You have to have people who want to vote for you, who want to put you into that office. Sanders was at a Trump country the other day, and you found this thing where all these people who voted for Trump, vocal advocates of Trump, giving that man a standing ovation for the things that he was saying, the things that was coming out of his mouth. It wasn't polished. It wasn't politics. Sanders, how do you feel about XYZ? I feel about this. People should have health care. People should be able to go to work and get a fair wage. Holy shit, I like what that guy's saying. He's saying I should get a fair wage. I should have health care. Just because I don't necessarily have money in my pocket, it doesn't necessarily mean I should be denied medical care. People like hearing that. They like hearing it for a reason. Because it's true. And it's not something they hear from the Democratic Party. So we have to kind of ask ourselves, why? Why on earth would the Democratic Party have a strategy, have somebody who's this popular, and instead of getting behind the person who's that popular, instead of saying, all right, we want to get elected, and because we want to get elected, we need to change. What we're doing isn't working. Status quo isn't working. Why? One of the amazing things about reality, to some degree, is that sometimes illusions are the things that allow reality to persist the way it is. What I mean is, the conflict between what people say, or the things that people believe, versus the real world, the things that actually happen in reality. That's the pathway to the truth. That's the way you discern what's actually true. Not what people say, but the difference between what people say and what people do. In this particular case, Do politicians want to get elected? Of course. Is getting elected the most important thing to them? No. It's not. No. If getting elected was the most important thing to them, they would have jumped on Sanders' bandwagon day one. That's not what took place. What's more important than getting elected to them is the people who are paying them. Status quo. They're donors. The things that Sanders is advocating would get rid of all that. Sanders doesn't want to take money from those people. How are they going to get $1 billion to run if they're not going to take all this money from these corporations? Sanders wants universal health care. He wants universal college. He essentially wants a country that works to the benefit of the people in that country. The Democratic Party, in order to do that, would have to go cross purposes with the people who are giving them money and for the people they actually support. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do it. It is more important to them to pull out each and every stop possible short of doing what Sanders is talking about. Meaning, as I mentioned in the first story, they're perfectly willing to stand aside and say, okay, what we did didn't work. So we just got to do it longer. And eventually, Trump will be so bad that people will come back on their own volition because of how bad he is. That's not an affirmative strategy at all. In fact, that's a strategy, but that's a strategy that purely depends on the other person fucking up. Sanders' strategy doesn't depend on any of that. Sanders' strategy is straight up. People should have health care. People should be able to go to work and get a decent wage. People should be able to live their lives without being worried about being screwed over by a particular company, without being able to go to school, being able to afford school, being able to not necessarily have Wall Street and corporations gamble with their money and their savings in a way that adversely affects the society itself. You heard Donna Brazile make the point that says, well, Democrats don't talk about that stuff. Democrats don't talk about that stuff. Which is why Democrats have a 30% approval rating and why they're becoming increasingly irrelevant. If they wanted to get elected, this would be the guy who they would be using to get elected. This is the guy they're using purely for optics, which means they are very cognizant. They are very aware of his popularity. They are very aware that progressives are popular. So you have to ask the question, why? And if you analyze it, if you critically think about it, the quick answer, or the answer that you'll come to, is a realization that, well, getting elected is not the most important thing to these guys. The most important to these guys are maintaining their donors, maintaining status quo. Status quo allows them to take large amounts of money and put through policies that benefits their donors while giving voice and optics to progressive causes. It's a scam. The problem is Sanders makes the reality of the scam known, because you can see a clear disparity between what he is, which is what they say they are, which they are not. He's the real thing. They are not. And it's nothing like having the real thing to show the disparity and the illusions associated with things that are not real and are not right. He's 41 points higher than them by independents. That's a landslide of a victory. That's a landslide. Be ready for Trump 2020. If Pelosi gets her way, that's going to be the person who's going to be president again for another 4 years. And look, Sanders isn't necessarily blameless on this. And understand what I mean. You guys know how I feel about Sanders. I love him to death. But he is wrong on this. He should not be helping this party. He shouldn't be helping this party because he has the opportunity to do something different. With numbers like this, Sanders can rip away from the Democratic Party, strip all of those people away from the party. Even Republicans. I've met full-on Trump supporters, Republicans, who would say, oh God, I would have never voted for Hillary Clinton. Sanders, that guy's a socialist, but I trust him. He's honest. It's an amazing thing to hear. It's an amazing thing to hear. But that's kind of making my point. That's the guy who pulls everybody. You consistently wonder, why are these people staying away from the polls? We don't understand. Why do the number of people who vote get less and less and less each year? Why are we losing so many people from the electoral process? Why do we have a 35% approval rating? I suspect, if you honestly wanted to know the answer, if you really, honestly, earnestly, completely wanted to know the answer, the disparity, the answer, is between the difference between his approval rating and yours. And if you interrogate it, the first thing you're going to ask is, well, what is he saying that's so popular? What are the things he's espousing that are so popular? Why do people love this guy? His hair's all over the place. He's all disheveled. He's kind of a gruff, rough accent. Why do they love this guy? It's not politics. It's not optics. It's not fantasy or illusion. He says things that are earnest and that people like and that people believe. There's a great difference between that and between what the Democratic Party is. And in that difference, you find why they lose. If you guys like the videos and content, feel free to like or subscribe. Thanks, guys.